Alright, welcome back. Maybe you've not been totally convinced what to play this season, or that new upgrade system makes you want to do an alt. Either way, we've got you covered, because we've trawled through every resource imaginable. We have played a bunch of specs and came up with today's list. What we consider to be the best specs in each game role. Now, not the literal 100% peak best by the numbers, because obviously that changes in Blizz's whims, but the choice that'll never make you think, damn, I wish I was playing that instead. So here are the criteria. 1, it has to be generally considered at least A tier in Raid and Mythic Plus, because I don't want to recommend something that is in some way anti-meta, because I want you to feel good about your ability to just get groups. 2, it needs to be easy enough to pick up, understand, and play. Recommending a 200 IQ spec because it can do crazy damage doesn't mean it will for everyone. And honestly, most people will have more fun when they can just relax a little and focus on the mechanics. 3, it needs to bring more than just numbers. With WoW's recent fight designs being so heavily using utility, we want something that'll help you feel like you shine, like you could be the reason why your group succeeded. And that means being able to solve new M+ affixes, interrupting, stunning mobs and other players can't, and generally just making others love having you around. And 4, it has to be fun. This is pretty subjective, so I've focused a lot more on the big meaty spells and abilities. The things that just look and feel awesome in-game. So that established, let's get right in with today's sponsor. Squarespace.com/Bellular Gaming, the place to rapidly get yourself established on the web. They've ran 2 of our sites, most recently the one we used for our game. Their easy-to-use site builder and award-winning templates make it just super easy to do with amazing features like e-commerce, memberships, mailing lists, all just done. My sites were all built using their handy pre-made blocks, making it a super approachable way to build your web presence no matter your level of skill. Of course, you can do that fancy stuff too. Want to do some code injection, some custom CSS, do some neat things like I did in the game site? You can do that. And on the e-commerce front, they can even plug into your fulfillment center to make the stuff run automatically, which is cool. Now, of course, for many, all you maybe want is just a great portfolio site. And they are so damn good at that. Their content-forward templates will help you put your best foot forward, coming off like a total pro, and giving whoever you want that amazing first impression. So you can start building your site for free today at the link down below. And then you can use code Bellular Gaming to get you 10% off an annual plan whenever you're ready to send it live. That's squarespace.com/Bellular Gaming. First up, the tank recommendation, which also happens to come with a pretty kick-ass DPS spec too, and that is Paladin. Almost every single time something goes wrong in a group and you are not playing a prot Paladin, you'll wish you were. Because despite being kind of having some targeted nerfs going into Season 2, these protagonist energy tin cans can they look to either be on the undisputed top of the meta or at the very least be a very close second. Why though? Well, they're pretty much unkillable, which helps, and sure, they pump out damage, but the real reason you should play one is because on top of all that, there's almost nothing you can deal with, even bad groups. Playing one of these is the solution to tank anxiety. Seriously, the only downside is, and I speak from very personal experience, that your healer might get bored with you being around. Absolutely no damage type threatens them. They can mitigate physical and magical, block attacks and spells, dispel their own bleeds or magic effects in a pinch, boost their own max HP, bubble when it's really going south, and continually top up themselves and their allies with juicy off-healing, even post-nerf. They also have a talent that auto-procs one of their biggest CDs when the going gets rough, so even if you fall asleep at the wheel, you're okay, and that only has a 45-second cooldown. When someone else makes a whoopsie, the hardest part of saving them is deciding which of sack, BOP, spell warding, or lay on hands you want to use. And even when you're too late, you can just battle rest them to get them back up. And when there's loads of enemies, they're great. I mean, their AoE damage, especially burst, is ridiculous. Avenger Shield is an interrupt that constantly resets, even more so with the new tier set, and that means you can absolutely carry people through many levels of M+ by just being the interruption god. The ability to lock packs down solo with Divine Tool and Blinding Light makes M+ quite a breeze when you're playing as one of these guys, especially since you can counter counter the new affixes solo. Freedom on the Entangles, Blinding Light and Incorporeal, and Healing and Cleansing the Afflicted. It's insane! Now, there are some inconveniences like the lack of mobility, but that's a minor nuisance because your trusty horsey can get you going when you really need to get moving. And if you go back and get yourself the Nitro Boost belt enchant from Wrath of the Lich King Engineering, you'll be fine. All that sounds good, but are they fun? Well, it might not add as many wrinkles to your brain as playing Blood or Brewmaster, but if that's your thing, well, you can do that, but if you want something that's just like simple and feels good, I think they're perfect. You've got their main spender being off the GCD, shield being just such a fun spell to use, regular resets of things, the spinning hammers, and the sheer no, you move energy that Consecration adds. It's a really strong fantasy. I mean, the aesthetic is just peak as well. Go level a paladin and tank, you will have fun, and even if you don't, Ret absolutely owns. Now then, melee DPS. In an expansion all about the elements, this one makes sense. It's Enhancement Shaman. And if watching Enhancement Shamans rise to the top last season didn't have you making one, maybe it should have, because right now they look to be in the middle of the pack in terms of performance, but the current thinking is that getting their really nice tier set and some higher gear is going to change that. Now, playing them is just awesome. The fantasy of being a spell-throwing melee has never been stronger. Their off-healing is potentially low-key insane. Their really fun burst moments, they come more often than in most other classes. Feral Spirits, its uptime is just unhinged now. And if there is a problem, you probably have a totem for it. The actual rotation differs quite a bit depending on build, which itself is a cool selling point, but the key thing here is you are now swimming in Maelstrom stacks, throwing out tons of lightning spells and letting your huge heals, just letting you have huge heals when you need it, which is kind of cool as an off thing. In action, it feels great, though you do have quite a lot of buttons to smash. It's not super complicated, just a little bit hyper, which in this case, being a melee DPS, feels pretty damn good. They're also primed to do ridiculous and satisfying AoE damage and respectable single target, but that's not entirely why I recommend it. They're also very useful. Like with Paladins, this M+ season is not a problem for them. Hex takes care of Incorporeal, Poison Cleansing Totem counters the entire Afflicted spawn, which is awesome. Spirit Walk cancels Entangling. With that then, Purge and Earth Elemental can help with tank issues. You've got their off-healing, mobility with Ghost Wolf, and the Wind Fury Totem as well to like boost everybody else. You've got, for DPS, like you've got Bloodlust, right? I mean, come on, Bloodlust, you're going to be there. Also, Sundering, Cap Totem, Thundershock, they just have some of the most overwhelming CC in dungeons. It's sweet. Now, their only major downside is not being as defensively stacked as some others, but with a bit of that off-healing, some smart use of Astral Shift, and the speed of Ghost Wolf, you can personally make sure that their lack of uber tankiness is not a problem. And even if it is a problem, you can just press Reincarnation and pretend nothing happened. Now, to be fair, we almost recommended Unholy DK for this section because they have been absolutely popping off in the charts, and Death Knight is a really effective class with Anti-Magic Shell, Death Grip, Death's Advance, and that kind of thing. But then the puzzle box got nerfed, which kind of ruined their life a little bit. But yeah, just seriously, there are so many small things about enhancement that just feel amazing, like being able to Ghost Wolf at 160% speed everywhere you go. Like, that just feels great. Now, that said, melee DPS has very few bad classes. Outlaw Rogue and Retribution Paladin are also great choices. Ranged DPS, this was hard to make. Balanced Druid is a Druid, so it has a lot of options, while consistently being top 3 damage. New Shadow Priest brings a Power Infusion, and a new, easier way to focus target, and still a big blast of AoE. Devastation Evoker just had Lost, CC, off-healing mobility, a huge damage potential, maybe even a legendary this patch according to some data mining. But at the end of the day, it's not always about the absolute max theoretical damage. It's about feeling you made the right choice with the spec. And that brings me to the Destruction Warlock. In the hands of a great player, by the way, Demonology has more potential, but it does come with a few downsides, like losing massive chunks of damage whenever things go wrong, or maybe with simple mistakes, which does take plenty of focus, and maybe you just feel like, that'll get me killed in a fight. I'd rather the thing that's more simple but still very fun. So Destruction has the most upsides with almost none of the downsides. It's a lot easier to wrap your head around, but it still has some depth. And it has top-tier damage compared to many others in the game. It can have ridiculous AoE when it gets cooking, which feels great in Mythic Plus. Launching big Chaos Bolts and single target just releases the happy brain chemicals. It always has since I first picked one up when I went a little bit flavor of the month in patch 5.4 of Mists of Pandaria. Chaos Bolt is a Chaos Bolt. It's good. Most importantly, though, you have so many ways to pop off. Demonic Circle is a way for smart players to never stop casting and never take damage. Healthstones are just great, right? I mean, come on, get your healing parse, Warlocks. Having the Summoning Stone means that everyone will love you. You'll probably save hours of time over a season just with that. They can be a little bit selfish compared to others when it comes to helping the group, but their curses, Shadow Fury, Battle Res, and Health Stones absolutely make them a credit to their team, even if it's a bit more quietly. Destruction might be said to have a bit of a mobility problem, but a bit of the top end of its gameplay is smartly using Circle and Gateway, right? Like having good Gateway placement, liberal use of Burning Rush, using that right to get around quickly. I mean, being able to Burning Rush everywhere you go and then heal up quickly does actually make them one of the faster classes to do solo stuff with. But I put it this way, I don't really know anyone who started playing a Destro lock and regretted it. Oh, and also, you'll have an excuse to go and get Green Fire, which is sweet. Plucking a healer to recommend was really hard, actually. Evoker gets its shiny heals and great utility. It is a little bit complicated to optimize. My personal favorite pick, by the way, is Disc Priest. It's a bit more out there, but I would wholeheartedly recommend Disc Priest to anyone. But ultimately, healer balance is in a pretty great spot, so if it falls down to which one of them you should play, and ultimately after 10.07's reworks, I've got to give a bit of a shout out to Restoration Shaman. Their passive damage output with Acid Rain and Chain Lightning leaves them just with extremely easy and impressive damage, letting them, of course, put their focus on healing and utility. Having Wind Shear as a healer means you can handle a load of interrupting, which will be invaluable in the Pug world. You can actually have some control over your group's success, right, so that's good. And then you've got your totems like Poison Cleansing, Tremor, Capacitor, Wind Rush, and then the non-totem things like Thundershock, Hex, Reincarnation, Bloodlust. If you want it, they have it. It comes at the cost of a few passive buffs, like Druid's Mark of the Wild or Paladin's Auras, but let's be honest, those things aren't as sexy. So when it comes to the healing itself then, their toolkit is astonishingly simple to understand. It has basically no major weaknesses, while still having depth for you to chew on when you're trying to get better, like your Cloudburst timings or optimizing Primordial Wave. Other than that, it's Riptide coverage, dropping totems, pressing your core healing casts, even with the cooldowns, Ascendance and Ancestral Guidance. Those are kind of fire and forget healing boosters, while Spirit Link is easily one of the most busted raid CDs around when used properly, and Ancestral Protection Totem can be used to even cheese hole mechanics at times. Even movement isn't a big issue, with Spirit Walker's Grace allowing you to move while you're casting, and Ghost Wolf is nice enough for all those times that you just need to move quickly in your own feet. Now they do have some downsides, like Astral Shift being their only major defensive, but it's a strong one. So overall then, that is our 4 core picks, 1 spec for every role in the game, as well as a few mentions scattered around throughout. I'd love to know, what are you playing? I will say this, personally, my next thing is a Paladin. Yeah, I totally want to play a Paladin. They are the most protagonist tier class in this game, I think. And I kind of want to try tanking again. I used to be just a terrible DPS fiend of a human. Since I've started healing on disc, I'm actually enjoying those more support roles. And I really think that having experience as a tank would make me a better player at the game. So that's what I'm excited about. Let me know what you're doing. I hope you enjoyed the patch and this season. I hope this has helped you out, and I'll see you next time.